Today I'm going to make a tattoo for one of my artists, Sarah Beth. The reason I'm doing this tattoo for her is that it is a graduation gift for her. It is not part of my apprenticeship program, but it's a way to celebrate her graduation. And also, I want to use this tattoo to help her tackle some of her tattoo problems. So this is what today's about. The tattoo I'm doing is also a neo-traditional tattoo, which is not my style because I usually do Asian style tattoo, but it is Sarah Beth's style. I want to do a tattoo for her in her style to help her better. The reason I can make something in a tattoo style that I never touch is that, number one, it only needs some basic skills, and all the basic skills are the same. So as long as I have the ability to perform those basic skills, I can move it to another tattoo style, which is the neo-traditional style. The second thing is that basic skills can be very powerful, and you don't need anything fancy to make a specific style of tattoos. Most tattoo artists tend to learn something new when they want to make a new thing, but it's actually not needed. I would say that if you can be very good at the basic skills, you can basically do everything. The truth is, a lot of artists in the market cannot perform the basic skills very well. If you can't shade very smoothly, or if you can't pack colors very well or blend colors very well, most of the time that is because you have some sort of basic skill problems. My name is Jing. I'm a tattoo artist of 8 years experience, and I specialize in Asian style tattoos, including Asian traditional and some brush painting style. But before I moved on to the Asian style tattoos, I've been working on geometric and fine line tattoos for 5 years. I grew up in China and I moved to the US 3 years ago. And before that, I owned my own tattoo studio in Shanghai for 5 years. And before that, just like many of you that's watching this video, I was doing apprenticeships, and I actually took a few of them. But it was never enough, right? Because I never felt I've learned a lot from my apprenticeships, because sometimes mentors just don't teach at all. So what I took many online courses. This is part of the reason why I support online courses, because I myself benefit a lot from it. I actually learned a lot of my skills from the online courses. I would say it is never enough. I mean, as long as you feel like your tattoo skill isn't perfect, then there is always space to improve, and it is always good to learn from different artists to see what they are doing. So we're gonna start with black. Adjust my wattage. So my ink setting here would be a small cup of full black. This cup is 5 drops of ink, and this cup is 1 drop of ink. And those two are medium size, or you can call it large size of cups. So that would give the ink a very nice dilution. I'm also gonna put 1 drop of the dilution, in it, just to keep it dry slower. Usually black ink doesn't dry that fast, but I just do it out of habit. Online courses cannot replace apprenticeship because it doesn't give you that hands-on experience. What online courses can give you is that it can give you different perspective of how a certain tattoo skill is performed, and every small knowledge is a small brick adding on to your level of tattooing. So what I'm doing here is to line out this tattoo first. The lines are a signature look for neo-traditional tattoo, which makes it easier to make because then we can line out everything and don't have to worry about the stencil going away. I think I'm gonna start with a round liner 5. That is usually a very safe needle to start with. The technique I'm currently using is one of the first lessons I taught in my online course, which is floating the tube with a round liner 5. This is a very basic lining skill. this video we are doing today is not how I normally teach a lesson. I just want to keep a record by filming it so my future apprentices could maybe watch it as well. The way I normally teach is more constructive and super detailed, sometimes a little bit overwhelmed by details. I like to take apart every skill into little steps and little motions, and then I like to explain each little steps and then give people a practice to practice on the very small steps so that they can slowly build up their skills. And at the end, I like to combine it together. By the time I combine it together, people are already very good at that skill.
The tattoo machine I'm using is a Cheyenne Sonova. I believe they already have a newer model coming out, and I might switch my machine later. But this machine has been good for a couple of years.
A lot of tattoo courses I've taken, both online and offline. And the apprenticeship I was in, they were all taught in a very vague way. And then the students are like left alone to figure it out themselves. That is not easy because one tiny little tattoo skill can maybe be formed by 20 different steps. And it is just really not easy for the beginners.
So low voltage is something I really emphasize in my teaching. Most artists, from my observation, most artists tend towards work too fast with a high voltage, which is most of the time completely out of control. So I always teach my students to start with a really low voltage. Usually I ask them to start with 6, and I ask them to emphasize on the depth. So that would help them to make a tattoo in a safe way. And it also is better for the client because it's less painful.
Because I experienced the hard way to learn, that is why I want to make it easier for my students right now. That's why I like to take things apart and make it super easy to understand.
So I'm going to switch a needle to round liner 3 for some of the inner lines. This is another signature look for the neo-traditional style. Most of the time, the neo-traditional style have 2 types of lines. One is a thicker, bolder outer line, and another one is a thinner inner line. So I'm gonna switch to round liner 3 to do the inner lines right now. And I'm also gonna switch my ink into my 5-drop black.
If anyone want to check out my tattoo courses, I do run offline trainings every year, including shading and coloring. If you're not local to LA, I do have one online course for beginner tattoo artists, and you can find it on our website.
So right now I'm going to switch my liner into round liner 14. I was using a 5 before. That was because the stuff I just lined out is more like it's a secondary element in the tattoo, and I didn't want to use a liner that's too big because if I make it that bold, it's gonna be a little bit overwhelming and take too much attention from the main element, which is the front. Since I just switched my needle into a round liner 14, the first thing I do is to change my hand speed to a little bit slower because the skin resistance from the round liner 14 is much higher than the round liner 5. So if I don't change my hand speed to slower, this line would come out totally unsolid.
My online tattoo course has 3 parts. The first part contains all the basic information you need to know to start tattooing. Stuff like what machines to buy, stuff like how to get a license, etc. The second part of the online course has 12 lessons of operation details, which you may not learn from any other online courses because people usually don't talk about it. Stuff like how do you actually hold a machine to tattoo efficiently? How do you anchor your hand so you don't have a hand problem later? Type of thing that you can Maybe you would learn from an apprenticeship if you have one. I added this 12 lessons to my online course mainly because one time I taught a tattoo course full of experienced tattoo artists, and surprisingly I found out a lot of them can't even do the basic things right.
So right now I'm done with all the line parts and I'm moving on to the next thing. The next thing I would do a little bit pepper shading for the background. It is not a typical skill for neo-traditional, but I'm just gonna do it anyways.
The third part of this online course contains 12 lessons of all the liner skills and 3 skin lessons. The liner lessons are not lining only, it also includes stippling and whip shading. The lessons are designed in a very constructive way. So if you would just follow my lessons step by step, you should be mastering the liner at the end of this course.
The hand is a weird spot to tattoo because it's kind of a little bit hard to stretch. That's why I'm grabbing her hand like this and trying to stretch it to the max.
One example I can give you here is my apprentice Jasmine's work. She's already an artist now, but this was her work when she was apprenticing with me. This is some of her fake skin work and some of her real skin work when she was first starting tattooing in the first 3 months. This was done when she was very new. Jasmine was trained in the exact same way as this online course, and even less details because I recorded this online course after I trained her and I added a lot of contents in there.
So now I'm switching back to my full ink to do the darkest spot in this piece of design. Before I was using my 1 drop ink and 5 drop ink. So once I've complete with the full ink, it provides a very nice gradient texture here, which is what I'm going after. Typically for neo-traditional tattoo, usually people use a mat to do gradient like this, but I just really like the look of the texture, and a liner would help to create that nice little texture, and that's why I'm using a liner to do it.
In my course, every tattoo skill is detailedly explained why to do things this way, and then visually shown how to perform it, and then followed by what are the common mistakes when people are doing it and how to avoid the common mistakes. This is something you would not see from another online lesson or offline lesson because all the examples of common mistakes are collected from my training experience. So I've been teaching people tattooing for 5 years, and what I do is that I keep a log of any mistakes that my students make so that I can look at it and improve my teaching next year. And I believe no one else is doing the same thing that I'm doing.
So right now I'm going to switch my cartridge into a mat, and I'm going to start doing the colors. Part of my color techniques is that sometimes I mix my ink in my cartridge. Like I kind of dip my needle in different colors, and as the needle run in the cartridge, the ink will mix up in the cartridge and make a new color that I want. The Cheyenne machine has a stroke 4, so it is better for coloring. The other machine I have, which is an inkjetta, that one has a 3.2 stroke, so I'm not using it to do anything besides pepper shading. Very small corner for a very big knot. I'm trying to go around it and then later on maybe fix it with a liner. So my goal of the color part is that I'm gonna get the color completely saturated in the skin, but because I have all these little white spots that I have to leave alone, that makes it difficult for a mat to do this work. Otherwise I'll just be like use a MAC to shade it off, but because I have to leave those spots alone, so I'm gonna use a lot of liner to do the details because it's just too small for a MAC to go through. This MAC is a 13 and it's gigantic for this tattoo.
You won't see another beginner tattoo course that has 37 lessons straight about skills. Usually they are heavy on sanitization, which we have, and usually they are heavy on designing and how to trace a stencil type of thing, which is we have all of these, but that is only the first part of my tattoo course.
I don't run my machine when I'm drying the needle because that increases the chance of the needle pick up some lint, and it is not great for tattooing. So no matter what material you're using to dry up the needle, I would suggest never run your machine into it. Okay, so by the way, I switched to a MAC 7 already because the 13 was very big and it was only suitable for 1 or 2 spots in this tattoo, and for most other area it is better to use a smaller bag. So I have already switched it.
I'm all about tattoo skills. I believe no one else is doing the same thing I'm doing.
And yes, I went back to MAC 13 because this is a larger area and a bigger MAC is better for it. So right now I'm doing the gray color. It is a very light gray, and because of that it's a little bit hard to see. That requires me to know what I'm doing because when I put down the gray color, it doesn't show up as a light gray I'm expecting right away. I have to wait for a while for it to show up. So if I don't know what I'm doing, I could totally overwork there, or just don't do it enough and then overwork later. It is very important to let your brain lead your hand, to think about what you're gonna do, what is the next step you're going to do, and to know exactly what is the right thing to do. So right now I'm using a liner to fix my color packing. I'm checking over the whole thing, and because the MAC was quite big, so for little corners over here, I'm just gonna pack it saturate towards my liner. So right now I am at the last part of this tattoo, which is I'm going to put white on it. So for that reason, I'm going to switch needle because I can rinse my needle and wash it, but it's never going to be as clean as a new cartridge. So whenever I want to switch to white, I would just always switch to a new needle. Here we are, Neochat Tree Frog hand tattoo. That's it. Work for today.
I really resonated with Jingxi's teaching style. She's very direct and professional, and everything was laid out with like very clear expectations, which is kind of how my brain works. I really like clear and concise directions, and it was so clear that she had so much care in each and every aspect of the lessons to transfer what knowledge she has over to us, which I really loved, and I had a great experience.
Well, thank you so much for watching this intro lesson with me. I hope it's helpful for you. And if you are interested in my training, both online and offline training, you could always find all the information on our website. And you could always email us to ask more details.
I think a lot more people would be open to this as a career field if they found her as a teacher.